Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss this administration's massive cover-up of the Epstein files in order to conceal President Trump's involvement. This cover-up reached its apex last month when Attorney General Pam Bondi falsely testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General testified, quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that," unquote. This is a lie. In the 3 million or so documents that the DOJ has disclosed to Congress under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there is credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. And that, of course, excludes the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is refusing to turn over. Donald Trump is mentioned thousands of times in the Epstein files. There are multiple allegations that he sexually assaulted young girls. But I want to focus on one victim's allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. The DOJ tried to hide reports of 3 of the 4 interviews that this victim gave to the FBI, but pressure from the media and Congress forced them to disclose them. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. In each of her interviews, this victim recited the same account of her interaction with Donald Trump. On August 7th, 2019, she explained that she was between 13 and 15 when she was left alone with Donald Trump, who, quote, mentioned something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Trump unzipped his pants and put her head down, quote, down to his penis, bit the S out of it. Trump struck the victim and said words to the effect of, "Get this little B the hell out of here." The victim advised that she bit Trump's penis because he disgusted her. She provided some additional details in the next interview 2 weeks later, and then a month later, she met again with the FBI and asked, quote, what the point would be of providing the information at this point in her life when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it. She didn't speak to the FBI again. But the FBI certainly found her story credible. In a 21-page PowerPoint presentation that the FBI made to prosecutors, they included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. But we're just scratching the surface, because the Epstein files also reveal that Donald Trump has made false statements over the past quarter century about Jeffrey Epstein. We know in 2002 he called him a terrific guy and said, quote, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In a birthday card, 2003, that Donald Trump gave to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, Donald wrote for himself that we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never aged. Have you noticed that? A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. But in that same year, Palm Beach County opened an investigation into Epstein that eventually was turned over to the FBI. The investigation became public in 2006, and the Palm Beach County police chief received a call quickly after from Donald Trump, where Trump told him, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." What innocent person calls the police chief about an investigation upon just learning about it? The recent documents also show that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." Trump also denied that he ever went on Epstein's plane. But of course, the Southern District of New York said that he was on his plane 8 times, often with young women. The reason why this matters is because we don't have half of the Epstein files. And if the Attorney General is covering this up in such a degree that she is redacting things from Congress, that she then, redacting things from the public that she then shows to Congress, what else is she covering up? And I would just show that this document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior, about whether he'd ever been to Jeffrey Epstein's house, saying, I may have been there with my wife. Asked if any young girls were there. No. He may have had children of guests, but that's it. Well, we know that's not the case. Now, why is this important? Because if the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files?
This is a lie. That's the line that just detonated in a political hearing, and it's aimed directly at the Attorney General over alleged evidence tied to Donald Trump and the Epstein files. That's not a routine disagreement. That's an accusation of lying under oath in front of Congress. Now pause there, because this is where things get serious. If a sitting Attorney General knowingly misleads Congress, that's not just political theater. That potentially triggers issues under perjury statutes and raises constitutional tensions between the executive branch and legislative oversight powers. Congress has the authority to investigate. The Department of Justice operates under the executive. When those collide, it's rarely clean. But let's separate heat from light. The claim hinges on two things. First, that there are millions of documents, some disclosed, some withheld. Second, that within those documents exists credible evidence implicating Trump in criminal conduct. That word credible is doing a lot of work, because in legal terms, credible doesn't mean proven. It doesn't even mean likely. It means worthy of consideration. The FBI can deem testimony credible enough to document or present internally without it ever meeting the threshold for charges. And that brings us to prosecutorial discretion. Under the executive branch, the DOJ decides what cases move forward. That decision is shaped by evidence, yes, but also by likelihood of conviction, corroboration, and constitutional protections like due process under the Fifth Amendment. Allegations alone, even repeated ones, don't automatically equal prosecutable crimes. If documents are being withheld or redacted, Congress has a legitimate concern. Oversight is part of its constitutional role under Article 1. Lawmakers are supposed to check executive power, not rely on it blindly. So when a lawmaker says, what else is being hidden? That question lands. But there's another layer here that can't be ignored. Public accusations, especially involving crimes this serious, collide with the principle of presumption of innocence. That's not just a courtroom rule. It's a cornerstone of democratic legitimacy. When political figures present allegations as near certainties without judicial findings, it risks turning oversight into narrative building. And that cuts both ways. If the DOJ is overly secretive, it fuels suspicion. If lawmakers overstate in proven claims, it erodes credibility. Now, let's talk about the Trump-Epstein connection itself. There's documented history, public comments, social ties, even contradictions over time. That's not disputed. What is disputed is whether any of that rises to criminal conduct and, more importantly, whether the available evidence meets legal standards. That's the gap between political implication and legal culpability. And right now, that gap is where this entire confrontation lives. So, what are we actually watching? Not a verdict. Not even a trial. We're watching a power struggle between disclosure and discretion, between accusation and proof, between what Congress wants to expose and what the executive branch chooses to defend. And here's the sharp takeaway. When allegations this explosive are argued in a political arena instead of a courtroom, the truth doesn't just depend on evidence. It depends on who controls the narrative and who the public decides to believe.